Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the new adventure. Not back, we're just starting. Welcome to episode 7 of the new adventures of Kieran and Spence. Sorry, folks, have not had my coffee yet. This might be a little bumpy to start. But I'm Spencer Bennett. To my left is the K-Man, Kieran Collins. Kieran, say hello to the people.
Hey, what's up? My name is K-Man.
That is his name, if you have never
Nice.
listened to the show.
I was born K-Man.
He was born K-Man, but actually chooses to go by Kieran. This is how that works.
This is true.
Anyways, we skipped last week because last week was a little bit tumultuous over at the DPN. A lot of drama, a lot of switch ups. We just decided maybe we should all take a week off and
We're
breathe
also
a little bit.
we're also incredibly lazy.
We're also incredibly
we were
lazy.
doing other stuff. And we're like, yeah, Disney laid off a whole bunch of people. Let's just take the week off.
Yeah, we're in college too, so it was a pretty wild week. So we apologize for missing, but we are back and ready to rock and roll. So Kieran, as we start every one of these shows with what'd you read this week? What'd you happen to touch upon? Let's hear about what you read. There it is. Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, I think is how it's
Dude,
pronounced.
good job.
Dude,
Do you have it in front of you?
It's right to my right. I'm
Oh,
not that
okay, gotcha.
impressive,
Okay, I was
but
about to say like that's very impressive. No, this book is incredible. It's so good. I sat the other night and I was smoking, and I just sat there and read the entirety of number 3, which is, I mean, like they're pretty thick boys. I'm very bad at reading books, but I was into it enough that I sat and I read all of it because if you get to 3, if you get to volume 3 is the shit. I watched the anime, so I knew what was coming. So if I didn't watch the anime, it'd be even better. But like they introduce 2 of the best characters within. What I thought when I was watching the anime, it seemed like a much longer gap between their introduction, but it actually wasn't. It was only like a few issues. So by the end of 3, kind of the main party sort of is together. There's still sick characters to come after that, but yeah. And another thing for Demon Slayer, it's when you talk about manga to anime adaptation, typically they're like on par because usually animes are just direct adaptations of the manga, the original source material.
that is
But
true.
in the
In terms
case,
of like comic book movies, like anime adaptations are usually pretty spot on.
yeah, in the case of Demon Slayer, there's one big difference, or not even difference, it's the same, but it just makes a difference in how you're taking it in. Um, I don't know where my book is, but there's a character here. He's on the front page probably. Here he is. This dude, Zenitsu, this guy who's like crying and complaining and stuff, right? His whole character is that he's afraid of everything every waking day, right? And he's the samurai guy, and you think when you first meet him that he's just past everything based on pure luck and stuff. I won't tell you what the reason is behind it, but one thing for his character is he just shrieks and screams and cries all the time, right? And when you're watching the anime, like it's funny, but it's a little annoying because you have to actually hear it, right? But when you're reading the manga, he's fucking awesome because he's hilarious because you're not actually suffering, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
it's cool though. It worked better. It works better in manga form to me than it does in anime form, even though I love the anime also.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's
I
my update.
There it is. You lent me copy 1 because you live across the hall from me, and I am about halfway through. And
I was saying he's right over there. That's what I was saying.
yeah, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Those of you listening, Kieran just motioned on screen and freaked me out. But I am reading about halfway through volume 1, and I like it so far. It's good. I for some reason decided to like start like 4 different books at once while also purchasing more books because we got a Barnes and Noble membership, so I'm just finding all these collected volumes that I can't find other places. So
So you're
I'm reading
reading,
like 20 things at
yeah.
once.
You're reading Demon Slayer. You're reading Scott. What else are you
Reading
saying?
Demon Slayer number 1, about halfway through that.
Yeah.
I'm reading the first Scott Pilgrim book from Brian Lee O'Malley, which you lent to me, which is just been great, really funny. This one's a little slower to get through for me just because I've so recently seen the movie, and so far it's pretty much like beat for beat the same.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm enjoying the art and all that, but it kind of feels like right now I'm just rewatching Scott Pilgrim, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
great movie. It's a very
Yeah.
funny.
I mean, I'd almost say like read some if you're more into Demon Slayer of the two, read some Demon Slayer first because that's like real manga, and Scott Pilgrim sort of parodies manga the
Oh
entire
yeah,
time. So
yeah.
when I first read it, I never read manga at all, so I didn't really get all the jokes, all of those
Mhm.
jokes specifically. But it also casts a wide net, so you're gonna get some of the jokes. I mean, you're definitely gonna get some of the jokes. You have a comics podcast, for Christ's sake.
I will probably get a hearty amount of those jokes.
Yeah, yeah.
But I also this week like I said, we got a Barnes and Noble membership, so I picked up the first volume of Wonder Woman Earth 1, which I love Grant Morrison and I love Wonder Woman, and I don't know why I never read that before now, considering it's like a modern origin of her. So I'm gonna be reading that. I haven't started yet. I read like the first 20-ish pages of Batman Last Night on Earth, which is Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, and that so far
Is
has
it good?
been pretty sick. Yeah. It's
I
like
haven't seen it.
I mean, I'm only like 20 pages in or so don't yell at me if I've got this wrong so far. But it kind of, I always thought it was like a Mad Maxy apocalyptic Batman, and so far it definitely feels like that, and it's a lot of fun. I love Elseworld Batman stories. Kieran can attest. I have Gotham by Gaslight, and it's one of my favorite Batman stories, and it's an Elseworld. So I think
Mhm.
Batman, the character, is really fun to put him in different scenarios and whatnot. And there he is,
There it is.
Batman Gotham by Gaslight.
I'm borrowing it.
Yes. But yeah, man, I'm enjoying Demon Slayer and Scott Pilgrim and everything else. I just reading a lot at once.
Yeah, no, I get that.
When I have moments, I'm like, oh, what do I feel like reading? It's like I'm watching a bunch of TV shows, kind of.
Yeah, it's
But
I love
anywho,
like I love that though because I don't know. I feel like I mean, we're film majors, so we have to watch a lot of screens. But I
uh-huh.
feel like I watch a lot of screens, especially during quarantine. So there's definitely something nice about like the physical paper copy of it.
Oh,
To
for
have
sure. That's what's been
myself
so
in front.
nice about getting back into comics recently. Not, I mean, we've always been into comics, but getting back into reading like regular weekly things we're picking up is because it feels like I get to get that same satisfaction of watching like a series without like without
Also,
it's a pandemic, and all we're doing right now is staring at screens. Like all of our classes, we're both in college, are staring at screens, so it's nice to be able to get that same satisfaction
yeah,
without having to like burn my eyes and just be exhausted and have a headache at
and
the end of every
and
day.
and like even beyond that, you can get some fresh air too, and
Right.
you get to sit outside with your turtle. It's great.
It's true. I do have a turtle. I don't know if I've talked about it in the show. I have a little tiny tortoise named Tarzan, and he's awesome. He's growing really fast, so maybe
He's a
I'll
little
do an
spook.
update or something sometime on the show. But yes, we do go outside and I read comics and he eats grass. It's pretty entertaining.
Yeah,
But anyways, there has been an absurd amount of news in the comic book movie and TV realm for there being no comic book movies and TV coming out right now.
this is
It
gonna
seems
be
to be a
another.
growing trend.
It's
It's
gonna be
not
another
really ever
fandom week.
good news, unfortunately, but it's good news this week.
Yeah.
But first, we'll start off with the bad news, which I came to you and told you a couple days ago, which is that the Batman has been delayed to March 2022, which big sucks. And Shazam Fury of the Gods delayed until 2023, which is just like it's so far away.
Hmm.
And then this one is most interesting of the DC delays. Black Adam has been pulled off the release slate, so it has no current release date right now.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
Whoa.
I don't think that Black Adam is not going to come out. I definitely think it's still going to happen, but my hunch is maybe it gets pushed up. Because maybe it's being pushed back. I don't know, but if they're really having to reassess funds, Black Adam may be more of a risk than a Shazam 2 or a Batman movie, and they may be pushing it off and just kind of waiting.
Well, here's what I'll say about it, right? It's starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who's
Right.
the highest paid, most overbooked actor in Hollywood, right? His schedule is insane. He always is saying that he can't do stuff because he's like on one set or the other set. I mean, there's always a Dwayne Johnson movie in theaters like 24/7 during normal times.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be the concern. That would be my theory, that it's just like about shooting and it's just about logistics, that like they had Dwayne Johnson for a certain period, but because of the pandemic, that period was interrupted. And so, especially because the guy got COVID and stuff, I feel like he's kind of calling the shots on that one because he has enough power and sway and influence that even as an actor, I feel like he's definitely influencing Black Adam a lot, a lot.
For sure. And I in no way think this movie is not going to come out, that they're just going to cancel Black Adam. No, there's way too much press for it already. That would be crazy to just pull it all together, especially when, like you said, it's a Rock vehicle, and he's also casting all these other characters. You have Hawkman cast, we talked about the other week, and we have Dr. Fate and Adam Smasher. I mean, that movie's going to come out. It'll happen, but it's interesting that it doesn't have a release date yet. Yes, Batman 2022. Bummer.
That's a bummer. Obviously,
Super
making it over.
bummer. Everyone was super excited for that. It's kind of I saw a lot of really funny memes, but maybe that's why question marks were in the year at
Oh
the
yeah,
at fandom. So that was fun, but it makes sense because I think that just in the case of like comic book and like big blockbuster film, everything that was going to come out in 2020 is now just coming out in 2021. So everything that was going to come out in 2021 is being pushed back to 2022. So you don't have this insane market where people are losing money to their own competing films. Like if
yeah.
Warner Brothers put out the Batman, Wonder Woman 1984, and like Shazam, Fury of the and the Flash or whatever in the same like 4 to 5 months, they're going to be losing the profits to themselves. Whereas if
Mhm.
they let these movies breathe, they'd make more money. So
That's why I
it
mean
makes sense.
we're both on the side of just releasing stuff online and kind of
Yeah.
up movie theaters, right? Because I mean, yeah, that's another win for it is that we're not gonna see these movies forever. They're gonna be like waiting, like you said, they're gonna hold 6 months, release Wonder Woman, hold 6 months, release the Batman or whatever,
Mhm.
whatever the next one come out. So I don't want that. I've already been waiting for these movies for so long.
The only movie that's stuck to its release date thus far has been The Suicide Squad. And I think they have all their eggs in that basket because I have a sneaking suspicion that it's founded in all sorts of facts that that movie is fantastic, and they know it's fantastic, and
Mhm.
they're not going to take any chances with that. That's going to come out, and that's going to be a huge um, tide change for just the conversation around, especially
Yeah.
around the Suicide Squad property, because that first movie is just so awful. So that they need that one for sure. But yeah, I would like to see this up online. I mean, I get it. It's difficult to recuperate your profits online. It seems like Mulan for Disney Plus was like a huge failure because they just said they're announcing Soul or they're releasing Soul on Christmas Day, which is not comic book related, but still, it plays into the when are we going to see these movies conversation.
I think with Mulan though, I think their price was just really
It
high.
was,
Right?
yeah.
I think the model was what was the flaw and the movie. I mean, the movie there were a twofold. First of all, it wasn't like I haven't seen it myself, but it wasn't supposed to be a smash great movie, right? Also, they thanked the Chinese government, who is currently holding people in concentration camps in the credits for it. So like, it was the perfect storm. It just that was not a good movie to choose for that. But with that being said, first of all, like if they change the model, I feel like they just do just fine. But even if they say use the same model for like Black Widow, I think that would be a hit
I
because
think
I
it would
think
make more money than Mulan did. I think
yeah,
Mulan, like you said, had a lot of like controversy around it that I don't know enough about to speak on, but I know there was controversy. I saw plenty of it online, and that it seemed like it was like mediocre. And just the live action remakes, I think, are diminishing returns. I think the conversation around them is now becoming overwhelmingly negative. Like the Lion King, people were so excited for it. I don't know a single person who really liked it. It was
mm,
super disappointing. And you
yeah.
have this like all studded star-studded voice cast. So this doesn't belong on this show, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think we're gonna see Black Widow and Disney Plus, unfortunately, or any of the DC films on HBO Max. But everything's delayed again. What else is new?
Yeah. Shout out to Aladdin, live action Aladdin,
Yes,
always.
that one's good.
Mena Masood, always with us.
Yes, we will do our next last DC topic, and then we'll jump over to Marvel news for the week. But this one kind of broke at least my Twitter because I'm a big DC fan. But a Green Lantern show officially coming to HBO Max from Seth Graham-Smith and Mark Guggenheim. It will feature a bunch of different Green Lanterns. I don't know whether it'll be an anthology or just like a show about the core, but it'll have Guy Gardner, Alan Scott, Jessica Cruz, and Simon Baz. Sinestro and Kilowog are also confirmed to appear in the show. It's going to be 10 one-hour episodes. To me, this is like the most in lukewarm news is that Berlanti Productions is producing it.
Um,
Um, so I don't. My original thought was, oh wow, an HBO Max. Just to jump into my thoughts, immediately, an
mhm,
HBO Max show with Green Lantern that might be really high, like cinematic quality production. That could be like potentially a tie into the DCEU itself. Berlanti concerns me because a lot of his shows are the low budget CW shows. Like that's what his company's known for.
mhm,
I'm glad that he's not show running it. I like Seth Graham-Smith a lot. He worked and produced on the two It films, as well as the Child's Play reboot, which I think is actually pretty fun.
mhm.
Um, So
It's gonna be more adult then, I'd say, because it's on
it's on HBO
HBO.
Max for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
I think it'll be in the same vein as something like probably like a Mandalorian, where it's a little darker, but it's not gonna be like TVMA. I mean, I don't think they're gonna be swearing and like murdering each other in Green
yeah.
Lantern, but it'll be like a little darker, a little more
One
serious.
one thing to say about Berlanti, right? It's not even really a statement in his support or admonishing him. But I think the low budget nature of the TV shows that he works on, it's entirely due to just lack of budget that they
I was
have.
gonna say, do you think it's more of like the CW and less of his
Yeah,
company?
because that's part of it. To be completely fair to Greg Berlanti, because I watched The Flash pretty consistently in its early
Mm-hmm.
seasons, and I watched it with my buddy Roy. Shout out Roy. And we would afterwards, Roy would go on Reddit and he would scroll around and kind of say different fans' comments, or else say stuff that like about the production and making of the show and stuff, right? And I mean, they did a lot with budgeting. They did a lot, like in the first season with the low budget. We were all thinking it was just going to be a regular like Flash show, and then he goes back in time in like episode 5 for the first time, and everyone was like, "Whoa, I can't believe they're doing that." By the time they get to the second season, King Shark shows up with like full CGI and stuff, and yeah, he looks a little shit, but considering it's TV, like, and the budget they have, it's pretty good. They're good at cutting corners. Especially, and so with that HBO budget, right, with that bigger budget that the Green Lantern project made for HBO Max is going to have, naturally probably spinning out of Scott Snyder's Justice League cut, or not Scott Snyder, Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder's Justice League cut.
If Scott Snyder directed film, I would like to see a Scott Snyder Justice League, but
Yeah, it'd be great.
beside the point.
But yeah, so there's going to be a higher budget for that. I think I would chalk up the Berlanti Productions attachment more as just because his studio has experience in making superhero narratives, and it's not for the CW, so I don't think it's going to have. He also executive produced, and like, I don't think he's showrunner, but he executive produced Riverdale also when that came out. So he does the teeny bop kind of stuff, right? Because that's what the CW is known for. But I think there's also I think he's more just there for his know-how when it comes to making a superhero TV show. I don't think it really means it's going to fall in line with the other stuff that they've made before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's just he is like the DC TV guy, so they just brought his company on, and less so for the story. But yeah, I mean, Green Lantern is obviously a super awesome character that has stood the test of time and is a really interesting property, and there's a lot you could do with that. But I like the idea of it being a television show instead of a movie, and more focused on like the entire core itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, Green Lantern's been something that's been uh, unbelievably mishandled for so long. I'm like, he is a core member of the Justice League. Like, I don't know why he's just been kind of ignored. I mean, the last time we saw him in a film was for 2 seconds in the theatrical cut of Justice League, and then obviously the Ryan Reynolds movie, which is not great, unfortunately. But
I just want
yeah,
Jon Stewart, man. I just want Jon Stewart. That's
yeah.
all
I mean, that would be cool. Jon Stewart, and I know that the guy who plays Tick in Lovecraft Country just got cast as Kang the Conqueror, but I would still like him to be Jon Stewart, please. Thank you. He can do both. It's fine. Anyways, over to the Marvel side of the fence for news this week. We got our casting for Miss Marvel. It will be Iman Vellani, and you have a lot to say about her, as we've talked
No,
about this
this is so funny. Have I told you about what she did on Twitter?
that she like leaked the pages of
Yeah,
the script.
dude.
Yeah. Tell that story though. Tell that
It's just,
story.
I don't know how old she is. I think she's like on the younger side
I
of
think
her
she's like
teenage years.
15. Like she's pretty
Yeah,
young.
yeah. So that's
Because the
what I like.
character's young.
Yeah, and she's like a kid, like not the 15's a kid. You can be pretty mature at 15, but like all relatively so, right? To be put in the limelight that quickly at the age of 15, especially with how isolated everybody is in their own little bubble. So funny. She tweeted saying like, "Oh, I guess I can say it now because it's out. I auditioned for Marvel, right?" And then some rando on the internet retweet commented it, one of those like Facebook like picture text things, right? And it said, like, with like colorful font, it said, "Don't you hate it when people just lie?" Right?
Oh.
Like totally making just taking the piss, making fun of her. And she took it seriously, and she retweet commented that like colorful picture with screenshots of the first 3 pages of the Miss Marvel script, and a screenshot of the NDA that she was supposed to sign but didn't sign. What the fuck?
That is
So
so
great.
funny.
It's so great.
That is hilarious. I mean, that is what happens when you cast a kid who's just kind of doesn't really know how Hollywood works. So that's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, I haven't seen anything she's been in, but she looks the part. I'm happy that we're getting I believe, a Pakistani
Mhm.
character and a Pakistani actress. So it's exciting. It's the first Muslim superhero, if I'm not 100% mistaken. I believe I read that.
The script, I've only read the first issue, I think, of the Miss Marvel series. I don't think I've read
Mm-hmm.
the whole first actually I read the first issue and I read a random other issue before too. But in the first issue, which is like that first volume of Miss Marvel, like broke Scholastic Book Fair records in when it was going around to like public schools and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, it did really really well in the library circuit. Like kids really like that title. That's why she became such a big character overnight.
I think that show is going to be very akin to Shazam, the film, in terms of
Yeah,
tone and just kind of like the idea of like a child superhero. And I think
yeah,
what they should have done with Shazam, they will do with Miss Marvel, as we talked about in a previous show, where Captain Marvel will essentially mentor her. I think that's going to happen. I think Brie Larson will be in the show for sure.
yeah.
And Henry Cavill should have been in Shazam. Damn it, I can't believe they messed that up. Anyways, yeah, she
But
looks great. I'm excited to see her in the role. I'm excited for that representation, and Disney Plus Marvel shows. I would like them now, and who knows when we'll see them.
and she's also Canadian,
Yes,
Simu, Simu Shang-Chi guy.
right.
Yeah. So I mean, Canada's doing it right, man. Canada, I think literally they're hiring all these Canadian actors for the diverse roles within Marvel because Canada is just far better at diversity, which respect,
Yeah,
complete respect.
Canada seems like a chill place, man. I
Kim's
would like to go to
Convenience.
Canada.
Kim's
Yeah,
Convenience is dope. It's a good
that's
show.
the show that Simu Liu is from, who
Um,
is playing Shang Chi.
Yeah, but so anyway, the pages she leaked of the script, right? They just
Mm-hmm.
seem to be like direct dialogue takes, not direct dialogue takes, but it was like definitely adapted from a scene from the first issue where I think she's talking to like her childhood friend and crush, about her superpowers or something like, or no, just about her life and her identity, right? And she's kind of saying, when I go to Pakistan, everyone thinks I'm American, and they're like, eat a cheeseburger. And when I come to America, everybody's like, you're Pakistani, eat I don't remember what the food she says is, but it's some food that I don't know. That probably is delicious. But yeah, so like I like that. I just like the kind of small town problem to it where it's like just growing up and finding your identity and stuff while being a superhero entering under Brie Larson. So
Totally.
I'm very, very pumped for that TV show. A little bit still, Shang-Chi, still my most hyped, but
That's a movie, though.
Miss Marvel's up there. Well, just in terms of projects coming out of
Gotcha.
Marvel.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to our next bit of Marvel news. This confuses me so much. Well, one part of it does, but we got a whole bunch of confirmations for what's happening in Spider-Man 3, which maybe might be like a half Sony, half Marvel film. I know that the current deal, basically Sony pays for it and Marvel makes the movie for them, but it seems like this might be a weird joint story effort because none other than Jamie Foxx, who played Electro in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, is confirmed to appear in Tom Holland's Spider-Man 3 as Electro, which is just bizarre.
I didn't know that.
Oh, are you just hearing this now? Yeah.
I saw memes about like, oh, if they're gonna bring back Electro, blah blah blah, but I thought it was just a rumor. That's
No, like
crazy.
he's confirmed in Spider-Man 3, which is just bizarre.
Why would you take a back character from that movie of any
Well,
movie?
here's what else is happening. Doctor Strange is confirmed to be in Spider-Man 3. And you know what comes out before Spider-Man 3? Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which is
Directed
heavily
by
rumored.
and directed by Sam
Sam
Raimi.
Raimi, which is like rumored to have all of like the Spider-Man. Whereas the Flash is going to do time travel and multiverse with all of the Batman.
Mhm.
Marvel's doing the same thing and playing into their hands with their version of that character in terms of popularity, which is Spider-Man.
What is when you say rumored, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the Spider-Man stuff, like not you don't specifically cite your source or anything like that, right? But like, is it good rumors or is it just something that was seen online?
It's pretty solid, good rumors.
Okay, cool.
Um,
I saw a thing. Preston Moore of the Unofficial Experts podcast. He retweeted something. I think Discussing Film are the one that posted it, and they were
mm,
like, they were like, Tobey Maguire confirmed to appear in Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. And then as soon as you clicked on it, there's no source for it. And you scroll and people are like, shut the fuck up. They're like, this is not true. But that would be great. I hope it's true. I hope that happens. That'd be
Yeah.
incredible. Like Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire coming back together.
Well, that's a huge part of the rumor too, is that they brought him on to do the multiverse movie, and Marvel's obviously biggest character is Spider-Man. Spider-Man is on the Mount Rushmore of biggest superheroes ever.
Of course, yeah.
And if the terms of like what's going on with Flash and just the fact that I think comic book audiences are ready for some zany craziness, and that could deliver. But I mean, that's exciting, and I think that's what's happening, considering Doctor Strange is going to be in Spider-Man 3 immediately following Multiverse of Madness. I think you're going to see something happen in Multiverse of Madness where all the timelines are going to get fricked up, and you're going to see a lot of weird overlap from different Spider-Man universes in Spider-Man 3. And then, as this happens apparently in a comic issue I've not read, apparently one of the times Doctor Strange and Spider-Man crossover, Spider-Man's identity leaks, and Doctor Strange basically wipes the memory, goes back in time.
Oh.
And as we know, at the end of Far From Home, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Spider-Man Far From Home, Mysterio, like from the grave, basically, I guess he has a pre-recorded message, leaks Peter Parker's identity.
Okay, so J. Jonah Jameson is 100% going to be in future MCU stuff, like Multiverse of Madness probably, because Sam Raimi.
Yes.
Whoa.
And I think that is all going to be one big crazy time loop that they're going to play back in as to why J. Jonah is in this movie.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
it's
gonna be sick, dude. I mean,
I want them to bring back Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. That would be insane.
Yeah, can you imagine like a live-action Spider-Verse with Tom Holland and like older Peter Parker as Tobey?
I would lose my mind in that movie theater.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Everybody would lose their mind in that movie theater. Not everybody likes the MCU, right? But everybody likes Sam Raimi Spider-Man. If you sit down in that movie theater, like, I would hate it if they ruined it, and in the promotional marketing, like Thor Ragnarok, how they gave away the Hulk, right? Mm-hmm. I hope that if they were to do it, it would be a total surprise, and it would just come out of left field, and you'd be in the theater, and you'd be like, "What?" That'd be the best. That'd be amazing.
That would be super cool. I am of the opinion that my favorite Spider-Man is Andrew Garfield. I thought he was so underserved by those films. I love Andrew Garfield.
This is the first time I've heard this. I think.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not. It's not like something I'm dying on like the hill for. I think The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a horrendous piece of shit.
Okay.
But good. I really like the first one, and I really like Andrew Garfield as Peter. So I would love to see him come back. And I know that was like one of Sony's like black sheep missed opportunities. Because they just butchered. They had so many plans for it, and they just butchered it so hard. Amazing Spider-Man 2. And you just brought up Preston Moore. He's a huge defender of the Amazing Spider-Man 2.
I know he is.
Preston, you're wrong. That movie is terrible. It's terrible, and it killed everything Sony was doing.
That boy chooses some of the wrong hills to die on.
It's so bad that they went to Marvel and said, we can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is.
Well, I mean, they were releasing the Amazing Spider-Man movies were fully just released so that Marvel wouldn't get their copyright back. Because
Sony had all these plans for like Sinister Six, and they were going to do all these big movies, which they're doing now with Tom Holland. Mm-hmm. At least that's the rumor. So,
but
Preston,
like Morpheus,
love you, man.
And stuff,
I was actually pretty excited for Morpheus. Jared Leto's a weirdo, and I was interested to see what he would do with a vampire.
I don't trust it. Like, it'd be cool. It's cool on paper, but also, like, considering Sony's making it, and it's a Spider-Villain movie.
And Venom's pretty bad.
Exactly.
A lot of people did like Venom, though. That's a weird internet movie where some people really liked it. I think it's big poop.
I can't sign off on that.
I think it's funny, but it's funny in like the way that The Room is funny because it's bad.
It's probably one of the worst movies I've ever gone to see in theaters.
Whoa.
That's what I say about Venom. No, it was bad, dude. Me and Jake went to see it. Jake of the Disney Deconstructed podcast. We went to see it in theaters because we were like, fuck it, we're doing nothing else tonight. And we both walked out and agreed. We're like, never once in my entire life have I regretted spending money on a movie. Like going to see a movie in theaters, because like even if it sucks, you always like, you're like, okay, well at least I got to see a cool movie, right? But we walked out of that and we were like, that was garbage.
Yeah,
that's just gonna on Venom. That's 100% my take. But on Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, right? Just to put it on the record officially, I respect your opinion because I'm not a Garfield hater by any means
Well,
whatsoever.
I think he was in such a similar spot as to Ben Affleck as Batman, where a lot of people don't like the movies he's in, but I think everyone agrees, like, yeah, but he was good.
Have you seen there's a video, a clip of when they first announced, I think, the first Amazing Spider-Man, or not announced, but when they had their first panel, right, like at Comic-Con to talk about it, and they were doing like an audience Q&A thing, and this dude came up in a Spider-Man mask, and like I don't remember what he specifically asked. Like he was saying, like, "Oh yeah, like I've always wanted to play Spider-Man," like that kind of thing. Like, and then he pulls off his mask, and it's
Andrew
Andrew
Garfield,
Garfield.
yeah.
Yeah, and he just, but I don't remember what he said specifically, but he gives a nice little speech there where he's like saying how huge of a fan he was of
No,
Spider-Man.
that's the thing, is he's a huge
Yeah.
Spider-Man fan.
So I think in the case of Andrew Garfield, I don't love those movies, but I think that he was this huge Spider-Man fan who just got sucked into all the corporate espionage, basically, right?
Well, that's literally what happened, like, with Ben Affleck, is he has a bat cave in his home. Ben Affleck is a monster Batman fan. Like,
Yeah,
he fully had a bat cave built in his basement. Like, they're both huge dweebs for these characters, and they just got screwed by wrong
yeah,
place, wrong time.
yeah,
Like, just the wrong time to pick up that character, unfortunately. So,
yeah. So
but
I
let's
say
give it
I
another
say
shot.
yeah,
Starting it right now. Bring
bring back
Garfield
Andrew
back for Spider-Man 3.
and bring Toby back.
Bring it all back. And
Bring it
that
all back.
might be what's happening. Okay. Last bit of Marvel news, and then we'll take our break before we talk about issues. Thor: Love and Thunder from Taika Waititi. Natalie Portman, who plays Jane Foster in the MCU, basically leaked the graphic novel they're adapting and like the storyline.
Oh,
So Thor: Love and Thunder is going to be based on a Mighty Thor graphic novel where Jane Foster is going through cancer treatments.
hmm
So that was a
that's
little bit of a.
that's not surprising. I think we kind of knew that already,
That's
though.
kind of like the storyline where Jane Foster becomes Thor in the comics is Mighty Thor, and
Lady
that
Thor,
is the
yeah,
what?
Lady Thor.
Yeah.
I think that's her.
Um,
I think so.
I,
Or is it just Thor?
I haven't read it, but I just know I knew when it was happening because it was a big moment in comics, and we're both involved in that
Yeah, yeah.
culture. So, but I mean that's exciting. I'm glad they confirmed that. I think that's a good, interesting angle to go with it. I don't
Mhm.
know whether they're going to go with the angle of becoming Thor is going to save her life, kind of almost like a Deadpool-esque take on it, where
Mhm.
the character is dying and the only way to survive is to give him powers. Maybe Thor actually like gives her powers or something. Again, I haven't read this. I don't know what her origin or
Right.
powers are.
Well, I haven't read that, but I read All New, All Different Avengers, which she was on, and it was like running at the same time as this, and they had a whole thing about like none of the Avengers knew who she was at all, and then I think Sam Wilson like finds out that she's dying of cancer. I think her whole thing is that like when she's in Thor mode, like the cancer kind of like it like halts the cancer. So I think she just like stays in Thor mode for like all day, every day, basically, to stop the cancer from killing her when she's not in Thor mode. Um, and I think that kind of drains. I think the effect that has is eventually it has a drain on her. So that's probably what the movie's gonna cover. I trust Taika Waititi, so
Yeah, no, me
it'll be
too, for
awesome.
sure.
And with a name and with the font of like Thor: Love and Thunder, it's gonna be it looks like it's like rock and roll, that looks like what's going for, like kind of the Tenacious D brand of rock and roll, you know.
And obviously, I mean, Taika made the best Thor movie, and if you disagree, you are wrong.
Oh,
Because Thor
absolutely.
Ragnarok is awesome.
Some people like the Dark World. Could you fucking imagine liking the Dark World?
I don't hate it, but it's like
Ah,
the most aggressively mediocre like Marvel movie. It's
I
like
hate
Ant-Man
it.
and the Wasp, where you're like, it just exists.
I hate that. No, it's far worse than Ant-Man and the Wasp. You got to rewatch the Dark World if you think
It is.
it's
I've
like
seen it one
it's
time, and I remember thinking,
bad.
"Who is this dark elf? What is happening?"
Yeah, no, it's terrible. There's like about three or four good scenes because Tom Hiddleston and Chris Hemsworth are still very
Obviously, terrific in those
obviously they're
roles.
great.
Yeah.
Um, and that's great. And there's a little like Captain America cameo at one point. That's really fun. But aside, the humor moments are funny, but everything else sucks.
Yeah.
So
It is.
that's why Ragnarok was so great, and that's why Love and Thunder is going to be so great for that same
I
reason.
am excited for Love and Thunder. And with that, we will take our quick break. And when we return, we will talk about the issues we read this week and maybe do a little Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy gushing because why the heck not? Welcome back to the 7th episode of the new adventures of K-Man and Spence. What seems to you like a 15-second break actually was a full day because, again, as I said at the top of the show, we get distracted easily. So, in the last 24 hours since we filmed the first part of this video, Kieran Collins got an Astro Boy tattoo. There it is.
There it
If you're
is.
listening, it is a very detailed panel of all the pieces of
Yeah.
Astro Boy kind of separate but coming together. I think it's part of his it's like a mock-up of his makeup.
Yeah, I wish I had
Kinetic
it.
Drawing.
I don't have my manga copy on me. I think I left it in the living room. But it's from the Birth of Astro Boy, which is not his first appearance, but it's the one they always use as like his origin story in the comics and in the movies and stuff. And it's his anatomical design on the little right before they make him and create him. I just thought it was dope, so I got it on my shoulder.
Yes, it is on his right shoulder.
Right shoulder, yeah.
Right shoulder. So we just thought we'd address that in case you're watching the video companion of this episode.
Shout out Demigod 6.
Yes.
My Chilla tattoo artist.
Yes. Anyways, we are going to do what we do to close every show and talk about the issues of the current titles we read over this last week. We'll start with the Jeff Johns kind of seminal thing for DC. It's like it's breaking sales records. Like it's like the biggest title in comics right now. I was reading about that earlier, and that's pretty crazy. It is, of course, Batman 3 Jokers. Book 2 was released last week in a nice little pretty cover. I like how it like embossed the letters are. It's very high quality put together book. Which
I also
nice.
take it out of the sleeve really fast.
Mm-hmm.
I also love the spine on it. That it's kind of they really collect it like it's like a book. You can put it on your shelf with your other 3 Joker ones, and you don't have to buy the volume, which I like.
Yeah, I've been doing that with that run, and then with Hellblazer, Rise and Fall, because they're both kind of put together like books. I like that Black Label does that.
Yeah,
it's nice. Instead of kind of feeling like you're reading a magazine, it really feels like it's a put together piece.
And the weird kind of framing of it too is really cool.
Yeah,
like the way it's more blocky than that one's normal, but Hellblazer is more blocky.
Yes, Hellblazer is like almost like 8x10.
Yeah.
Thing. Anyways, this is just a normal cover, and so it's not too exciting. But Kieran, give me your quick thoughts. Not quick, but maybe detailed thoughts of Batman 3 Jokers book dose.
I'm loving this series so much. Really cool. It was Spencer's idea to grab it in the first place. It's on technically his side of the poll list.
I had just heard of it, and then I saw the cover, and I was like, oh yeah, that's happening. And I was like, yeah, Jeff Johns. So it's probably pretty good.
Yeah.
Why the heck not?
I just love it because I like Batman, but I love the Bat family.
Mm-hmm.
In any regard. And I mean, if you've listened to any episode of the show, you know I especially love Red Hood. And the way that Red Hood is used in this, Jeff Johns writing Red Hood is better than Red Hood is in his own series at the moment anyway. I love Red Hood and the Outlaws. I love Red Hood Outlaw, all that kind of stuff. It's very, very hit or miss. What I love about this is it's a sequel to 3 different ones. It's a sequel to Death in the Family, The Killing Joke, and I'm not sure if officially, but I mean it definitely is sort of a sequel to Under the Red Hood also. Just because
what it was supposed to be was like The Killing Joke, Under the Red. It's like a big all of like the iconic like Joker stories within like the Batman family. This is supposed to kind of be like a spiritual sequel to. It's in that continuity directly.
Yeah, maybe not Under the Red Hood directly. It might be more like
I think it's Death in the Family
and his first appearance, and then The Killing Joke. I think those are the 3 versions.
Yes.
But even still, because of the heavy Red Hood influence of it, and Under the Red Hood is already kind of a sequel to Death in the Family, so there's relations there and stuff.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. The main protagonists are Bruce, Barbara, and Jason.
Yeah, but I like that it's not a Batman story with Jason and Barbara as like backup characters. It really feels like there's 3 main characters to the story, and they're jumping between them. So Jason really, really gets his due diligence in a way that he usually doesn't. So
sure.
I love it. And the scene in issue 2 specifically, not going to give much away, but just like there's some really, really cool scenes. And one involving Red Hood being tortured, and that's a really well done scene.
What they do with Red Hood in a very specific, intense scene is awesome. Awesome in that it happens. It's not awesome that it happens to Red Hood because it's kind of intense, but
Yeah.
I loved it. I was like, oh, this is such a fantastic idea, and it's so Jokery, and it's just
Hmm.
very well, very very well done.
Here's what here. Okay, let me. Can I spoil? I'm gonna spoil like slightly.
All right, we're
Okay.
gonna give you a
So
minor spoiler
yeah,
alert for
minor
Batman Three
spoiler.
Jokers,
Number two,
book two.
specifically because we have not gotten to three yet. And because it's not out yet, but with the whole thing that's happening, right? With how like they have Jason tied up in the chair, butt ass naked, and they're like thinking of turning him into the Joker, basically,
And
right?
yeah,
Um, I honest to God thought that because it's Black Label, they were gonna kill Jason right there. And
so did I.
I thought they were gonna give him the Joker serum and he was gonna turn to the Joker, which could still be the case. He
I
could
thought
be.
that they were gonna, because the whole thing is the three Jokers. I thought they were gonna replace the dead Joker with Jason.
Yeah, they still could have put something in him. And like I was thinking like if
I would say
it
that might
is
happen
it
still.
is Black Label. Yeah, it is Black Label and it is supposed to be more gritty and stuff. And in
For sure,
reality, I
and it
feel
is.
like yeah, in reality I feel like they would have 100% like they wouldn't have killed Jason there, but they would have put something in him to fuck with him. And then maybe in the next issue or the issue after that, he goes nuts and becomes Joker. Which even
Yeah.
as a huge fan of Red Hood, it's an Elseworld story. I'm so down.
Well,
That's like
the last
I'll
two
be
Jokers
sad, but it'll be
alive
great.
still are the comedian and the criminal. He
Yeah.
killed the clown.
Uh-huh.
So that the criminal would do something and that's the Joker on this cover is the criminal. He would do something that kind of sadistic and the well thought
Yeah.
through and
This
mastermindy.
this Batman story feels like it's gonna go down in history. I hope it does because
Well,
it's good.
as I
It
said at
just
the
has to
top,
finish strong.
yeah, when I said I'm going to start this segment, I mean, it's breaking sales records. Like it's boosting DC big right now, which they need because comics are down on top of everything else being down with COVID, but just comics are struggling. They couldn't sell for months. So if you even have the mildest interest in a really crazy Joker story, please pick this up and help out your local comic shop and help out DC.
It's
And
worth it,
everybody.
and it's
Yes,
really really worth it.
it
You
is.
start. I going into the first issue took me forever to start reading it, and I was
Mhm.
like not sure what to expect, and it really grabbed me within the first like 3 pages, and I read the whole thing. And as soon as Three Jokers came out, I jumped to that to read that
Yeah,
because it's great. It's really
it
fantastic.
is good. All right, stick it on the DC side, and then we'll jump over to our Marvel titles. And
Hmm.
one indie title, and it's not indie; it's Dark Horse. Is Dark Horse indie? Dark Horse is kind of like in the gray area of like indie and mainstream because they are like one of the bigger titled names. Anyways,
I'd call them like A tier indie,
yeah.
basically.
Anyways, I picked up Detective Comics 1027, which was kind of a big seminal special issue. It fully is just a graphic novel. It's like 200 pages. It's thick. It has a spine like a book. I don't have it with me, unfortunately. I think it's in our living room and we're recording, so I'm not going to go grab it. But it was really cool. There were obviously it being an anthology kind of store book. Some were better than others. I really loved a lot of the varying art from issue to issue. And there's one title that ends in a cliffhanger about something that if you haven't read it, I won't spoil it for you because this was kind of a big comic book event. But they do like the costume style from Batman's first appearance where the ears are like on the side,
Oh,
very
cool.
retro. And I had an epiphany reading it. I was like, you know what? If I was ever given the keys to the kingdom by Warner Brothers to do a Batman movie, I might do something inspired by the original suit because it is
Mhm.
kind of cool in its own right. It is the most bat looking.
Isn't that what the Batman kind of is, though?
Kinda. The Batman is almost I mean it's like Long Halloween, which has a little bit of that influence too.
Yeah.
It's Gotham by Gaslight for sure, which we talked
Uh-huh.
about last week. Um
One
and
thing about one thing about Gotham. Well, we talked about Gotham by Gaslight yesterday, dude.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's this episode.
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah.
We talked about Gotham by
Um,
Gaslight this episode.
but like one thing, right? Because I have it right here. The symbol on the Gotham by Gaslight costume looks a lot like his original appearance symbol. There's
Yeah.
even one of the covers, like this cover, it's like very zoomed in on it.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like that's already taken inspiration from the original costume.
Right.
I was seeing stuff on Instagram. I'm not the original source on this or anything. I was just seeing like fan stuff on Instagram where they
Mm-hmm.
were likening the Rob Pat, like the first costume reveal before we got the full trailer or anything, to original appearance Batman. And it worked. Like the symbol is very similar. It's obviously a lot more wiry and techy and stuff, but it's
Mm-hmm.
still it's that same sort of basic line format, almost like Jack Skellington's bow tie, sort of.
Yes. And just on the from Matt Reeves's mouth at DC Fandom, one of the inspirations for the character was Batman Ego by Darwin Cook, and that has a very specific suit too. So, anyways, Detective Comics 1027 is fun. A lot of the stories are kind of like let's celebrate Batman. Like there's a one about a cop, and the whole time she's like, Gotham City cops are just corrupt, they're brutal, and at the end she goes, but I have faith in one, and it shows Batman like on like a rooftop. So it's kind of just like celebrating
Yeah, but
Batman.
don't call Batman a cop right now. That's not the
No.
no.
It was more like he was the best of what they should be, was what it was trying to say. I definitely butchered that in
Yeah.
my pitch.
Here's my wait. I got a question for you, right? Just because it popped into my head. It's ancillary, but if you were to get a tattoo of one bat symbol, which would it be?
Um, Probably the Frank Miller Fat Bat, 'cause that's my favorite Frank Miller or my
That
favorite
makes sense.
Batman. But I wouldn't get one. I have a DC tattoo already. I'm not gonna
Yeah, no, I feel that.
get all the
It's
specific
yeah.
logos. It'd be overkill, in my opinion. But yeah,
You
Detective
could get it.
Comics,
You get low key somewhere. You know,
maybe.
even a tiny
Detective
tattoo.
Comics 1027 is a lot of fun. There's a lot of different ones. Some I liked more than others, but I enjoyed it overall, and I think it's worth picking up even if you're just a fan of DC, because there's a lot of other characters in those as well.
Yeah.
So, moving on to Marvel titles for this week. Kieran, you added to our poll list Shang-Chi #1. In light
Yeah.
of the recent news of the Shang-Chi movie, you've been watching Kim's Convenience, which stars Shang-Chi himself, Simu Liu, and so
Mhm.
you wanted to read up more on this character. I seconded that. Tell me what you thought of Shang-Chi #1.
I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan. I
Mm-hmm.
love Bruce Lee's movies. I think that Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, I think is what it's called. I think that movie is gonna fuck. And I don't swear that often on this podcast. I try not to, but that's the one exception I'm gonna make because I think that this movie is gonna be super good, especially with all this development time they have behind it. And if they don't phone it in, like if they try to do it right and make it like a proper modern Bruce Lee movie starring Simu Liu, Simu Liu, first of all, could very well be one of Hollywood's major players in the next few years if this movie's a success
For
because
sure.
he's already jacked,
And he
right?
looks like a
And
superhero in Kim's
yeah,
Convenience.
yeah, and I don't I think I remember reading online that he has like he has stunt performance sort of like he has like even though Kim's Convenience is obviously not an action TV show, I think he still has that history of action and of being able to do stunts and stuff. So if the action is good, if it's not a total flop like Iron Fist was on Netflix, um, really good
Rightfully
potential.
so. I heard it was awful. I didn't
Yeah, and
watch it, but
yeah, and I liked the comic book. It's written by Gene Lewin Yang, I believe is his name, and he originally wrote a title called The Shadow Hero, which was made for Scholastic, I believe, and it was the Green Turtle is like the main hero in it. It's a comedy kind of like Chinatown superhero story, really good. I've loved seeing his career blossom since then. He worked on New Superman, which I read in high school, and I really like that title. That's Chinese Superman, basically.
mm-hmm.
And now he's doing Shang-Chi, which is such a natural evolution. And I really liked issue one. And the thing I like most by issue one is it made me very, very excited for the movie because this has some real potential.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. It was definitely there's a lot of lore to this character that I'm not familiar with. So I was a little bit lost in the beginning, but it all came together at the end and I was like, okay, he's fighting this person and this person is that person. Got it. At the
Yeah,
beginning and
yeah.
they're all in like the temple and they're like monks or whatever and they're just
Mhm.
talking. And I was like, oh, I have no idea what's happening right now. And this is the
Yeah, and
#1, but
another
I
thing
put
I
it
saw,
together.
it's my first time reading Shang-Chi also. I really
Mm.
didn't know anything about the character, so everything they introduced, I thought they did a good job of doing it
For sure.
because
By
by
the
the
end
end
it
of the
made sense
issue,
to me.
yeah. And one thing I also really want to do at some point, I have other ones on my priority list first, but I want to get I while I was looking into the Shang-Chi issue, I saw that I think in 2011, Marvel released this like really big ass book of like it's new Shang-Chi stories, but it's all in black and white pulp
Ooh,
style, like
that's cool.
like how the comic used to be back in the day, and
Kind of like manga a little
that's
bit,
cool.
black and white too.
Yeah, it's like manga, yeah, and like OG comic books and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Like comic strip type stuff.
exactly. So I want to check that out. I think I love it when they kind of change up art style and do that. But yeah, Shang-Chi #1, high recommend. It's on our pull list already. I'm gonna keep reading it,
Yeah,
and we'll keep talking about it.
I liked it as well. There was one thing that I thought was interesting about it that I don't know if you noticed, but in terms of like comic books, those pages were dense. Like
Hmm.
they were like small panels. Like I was like reading, I was like, whoa, this is like not that comics aren't like intense reading. Like sometimes they're very word heavy, but comics are like I just say every time on the show, it's like reading storyboards for a movie. It's like seeing scenes and kind of
Hmm.
like you piecing together the action. But
Yeah.
Shang-Chi, like it was like there was like 8 to 10 panels on every page, and I was like, there's a lot of writing here, which isn't a bad thing. I just was much more dense than most of the titles we're reading. So
Yeah.
I was just wondering if you noticed that.
Yeah, I think the writer Gene Lewin Chang. I'm just gonna say Chang from now on. I believe that he's Chinese American,
Mm.
I think. So with like Chinese parents, born and raised in San Francisco. But he's like, yeah, so he's taking inspiration from more Asian styles of storytelling. Probably not manga specifically because manga is Japanese, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's similar to how a lot of European countries come from similar origin points when it comes to a lot of their art and stuff. Where, yeah, like in a manga, there is a lot of text going along with it because there's that internal narration and stuff. I've noticed that in his writing before. I mean, it worked for me. I thought it was. I loved the epic scale of it, and that like the first few pages, the art style was so intense and epic, and like a big budget comic book. And then when it went to the present day, you might notice it like went totally. It like simplified the art style down and made it sort of like a more approachable, everyday sort of story, and that contrast was cool. I also hope that well, I don't know. I hope that they do the story how it's supposed to be done, but I'd like to see more of the history part that was kind of shown, where it was that old dynasty, but also I preferred the modern iteration too. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I just like Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of the character now, and I'm really really gunning for that movie. That's my most hyped Marvel project coming out of like anything that's coming out.
Yeah, I would agree with you if Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness didn't exist because I
I feel
love
you.
multiverse craziness. But I am excited for Shang-Chi for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So this one was not a title released this week, but we found a back issue for it, and we thought, maybe if we like this one, we'll try and jump ahead and fill in the gaps. But we got the Guardians #1. I don't know who's writing that. I don't remember when we looked at it.
I know.
Sure.
Al Ewing. That's his name.
Yes.
Ewing.
You had some interesting thoughts on it. I liked it. It didn't like break the bank for me. I thought the ending was pretty crazy, and I really enjoyed like it just seemed kind of wild. And I was like, all right, this is like kind of zany, and there's a lot of. It's not a spoiler. It came out months ago. There's like Greek gods and it's a Hercules cliffhanger, and I was like, yeah, I'm in. I like Marvel Hercules. I like when Marvel goes weird.
Yeah.
But you had some interesting thoughts of just the characterization of the Guardians themselves. So share those.
I have a very specific take on Guardians of the Galaxy. My favorite titles, first of all, of the Guardians run in comics ever. I've read a decent amount of Guardians. They've been on my pull list a good number of times over the years. I love Dan Abnett's run in 2008. That's the one that James Gunn based the movie off of very loosely. And I also love, like, way more recently, Chip Zdarsky. He did his run on Star-Lord, which I'll bring back. I have the individual issues for that one at home. When I go home next time, I'll bring those back, and you can read those, and we can talk about those at some point, because that's a really good run. But yeah, the problem I have with Guardians as they currently stand in the comics, and it's probably going to continue to be this way, is just they've overhauled all the characters to be exactly like the movie versions. I love the movie. I love the characters in the movie. I still feel a little bit crushed that those characters that I originally loved in the comics are no longer the same as they were. Like they've kind of done like a semi-step back. That's one of the reasons I love the Chip Zdarsky run, is because that was the first time they in right before the movie came out, they changed Star-Lord's costume from his original look, which is this one right here, right? That's how he originally looked in the comics, and this is one of my favorite superhero costumes of all time. He looked like that, then they changed him to look exactly like Chris Pratt and have the whole jacket and all that kind of stuff, the red leather jacket that he does in the thing. And then for Chip Zdarsky, they brought back the crest, and they brought back like the jacket, and then they just like changed the pants or whatever, but it was still in the same style, and it has the movie version of the mask also. But that was at least going back in the right direction. And with the comics, I can see the effort. I can see they're going more 90s cosmic Marvel with it. I thought Marvel Boy was really cool. He was a little shit, but I liked him. I liked it. He was very like TikTok. That's what he wrote.
The ending was bonkers, and by the beginning, I was like, "Yeah, this feels like a Guardians scene from a movie." And then at the end, I was like, "Oh, this is really fun." I'm enjoying.
At the end, and I like that part. I like they're making the attempt at the cosmic stuff. I'd be hesitant to read #2, but I would read #2. But it's just that like tonally with the tone of the first one, it makes me less excited for Hercules because I'd really prefer if they took themselves more seriously like they did in the original comics, because there was humor. It was definitely like not a super like black and white serious comic, but the way they balanced the humor was very different. It was funny, but it wasn't a comedy book, you know?
Right.
Whereas Guardians now, I feel like every second panel there's a zinger, right?
Sure.
Which works really well in the movies, but for me personally, doesn't work as well in the comics. End of piece. And now, I'm curious to hear what you thought, because I obviously have a lot more of a history with the character, and like, you know, just for that reason though, that doesn't mean that's the correct take or anything, you know? Yeah.
I enjoyed it a lot. I said that the beginning of this topic. Like I said, I liked the ending. It got all crazy. Liked Marvel Boy, like all the Greek god stuff. The Hercules cliffhanger was sick. I would kind of be interested to see what happens after that, but I didn't like fall in love with it. I think I felt probably the same way I did about Shang-Chi, where I was like, yeah, it was really cool. It didn't like rock my world. I probably like Shang-Chi a little more. Um, but I thought they were both like solid. It wasn't I very seldom encounter comics that I think are bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they exist, and if I were to read titles that I'm not interested in, I would probably find them. But I thought it was cool. It didn't push me one way or the other, but I really liked the ending.
So are we gonna try number 2, or
If we can
should we
find
just?
it, yeah. I don't like go through the trouble I did of tracking down all the Superman back issues
Mm-hmm.
on eBay because I don't love it as much as I just love the character Superman. But you know,
It's
if we
probably,
see it at the comic shop today or
yeah.
tomorrow, whenever we go, then yeah, maybe I'll pick it up because they're like, I mean, in the case of like individual issues, it's like $3. Like, who
Yeah, I
cares?
mean, I'll pay for it. Like it's on my side of the pull list, but it's definitely probably there because they had number
Mhm.
1. They had like 2 copies of number 1, so I'm sure they have number 2.
Cool.
I'll read number 2. I'll give it its fair chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, not. I definitely like Shang-Chi a lot more.
Yeah,
Um,
for
yeah,
sure.
cool.
Anyways, Skulldugger and Skeleton Boy number 5, right? Was it number
Woo!
5?
Yeah,
Okay, that
uh,
came out,
I
which is
think it
like
was
your
number
favorite
5.
thing in the world right now. This
I
is the one where they
love
elaborate on the cliffhanger of Grim Jim, right?
number 4. Number 4.
Number 4 came out. This is
Number
where they
4.
elaborate
Yeah,
on the cliffhanger of Grim Jim. Yes?
yeah, and of Alley Rat, or
Alley Rat. I
yeah.
don't know. We didn't talk about this on a past
No,
episode.
we did
Okay,
not.
cool.
Yeah, I love this
Yes, this is
title
your favorite
so
thing ever
much.
right now. So please
Yeah.
go crazy.
Dude, this issue, the plot, like every issue wows me. The plot twists are so cool. I love the premise in the first place of just like asshole Batman and his like child hostage
It's like
orphan
Punisher meets
sidekick.
Batman. It's kind of how I think of it.
Really is. Yeah, but I like that it's not really taking a stance. It's just sort of telling the story, and it's like you make your own judgments as
Kind
you
of like
like.
The Boys on Amazon a little bit, where they're like very much anti-heroes and kind of like violent, out of control anti-heroes.
Yeah.
Um,
But I wasn't in the previous issue, like the one sort of like thing I was thinking was I was like, okay, like Grim Jim seems sort of like a toss-in villain that's like a Joker knockoff that they're gonna just put in here
He's
to
half demon, which I thought was sick.
yeah. I was like, they're just gonna put him in here to like make it a regular comic book to have an antagonist, right? For that sake. But they've really done a great job of making him a big part of the story. Like the reveal, spoiler alert for Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy. Absolutely read this title. But Skulldigger is Grim Jim's son, or like
Yeah.
he's like a similar case that he has a similar relationship with Skulldigger that Skulldigger has with Skeleton Boy. Also, the issue ends with both of them being shot, so it could like not matter at all, which is also a cool idea. And the fact that the dude Tex 96, who's running for Congress, or not
Mayor.
Congress, for mayor, he rescued Skulldigger back in the day while he was a superhero. It's just cool. It's 90s and it's like about the past. It's about 20 years in the past a lot of the time. And Skeleton Boy is very much being pulled into it. And it's kind of, and they alluded in issue 1 that Skeleton Boy is going to end up killing Skulldigger.
Well, spoiler at the end of this episode. I don't know if that's gonna happen, or at the end of that issue. I don't know if that's gonna happen.
No, he'll be fine. It's comic books.
You think so?
I don't think that thing he has on is definitely bulletproof and shit. I mean, he's definitely gonna be injured, right? Because it's gritty. Sure. It's a gritty comic book, but I don't think they're gonna kill him yet because I think like I'd be shocked. I think that there is gonna be some sort of payoff to the whole Skeleton Boy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they mean that he just failed to save Skulldigger, which would be a little bit lame in my opinion. But also, I really trust Jeff Lemire at this point. All of these
Yeah.
issues have been like 10 out of 10. One of the best comic series I've read in years and years. It just looks so cool too. But yeah, I'm done sucking Skulldigger's dick. What do you think, Spencer?
I think it's cool, man. I'm enjoying it. I like how it's such a different world than anything else for reading and anything else in comics, really. No, it's super fun. I think it's pretty bonkers. The ending, I was like, whoa, did not see that coming. I like Grim Jim as like a half demon, half human pink Joker thing. It's really fun. I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm almost enjoying how much you're loving it as much as I'm enjoying the comic. But it's a good time. I don't have too much elaborate thoughts, purely because I don't remember it all that well because I read it like 2 weeks ago and
Mm-hmm.
life is insane right now.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I can't wait till we have them all, and then we
Yeah.
can. And it's that
Yo,
way. I feel the same way about Strange
I
Adventures
I
towards the
like
end.
this enough that even though I have all the issues, I might still buy the volume because I like it that much.
It's like collected editions are cool too. I
They
just
are
like having
cool.
it all.
If I like the series enough, then yeah, I'm all
Yeah.
for that. Another thing just to kind of rub off that, right? I've noticed this a lot since because we started reading comics again recently.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm only really going off Skulldigger and like some volumes and stuff I've read, but they who was it? It was James Tinian did a tweet recently where he was because he just released Department of Truth, I think, which is his new indie title, which I might be interested in picking up.
And he's
But
doing Joker War, and Punchline comes out next month.
hell yeah, good. We love some James Tinian.
I'm a
Nice ass
fan.
guy. But he put a tweet out where he's like, I love seeing nowadays that the indie scene or like the creator created content is really doing just as good as like the Marvel DC stuff. I think that's awesome. I hope things continue to go that way because comic books are such a great means of storytelling. Your limit is literally your imagination. They're so over the top and stuff.
Yeah.
I love Marvel and DC, but I'm also loving reading titles like Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy, and ones that are like totally new IP, their own universe. I feel like, and especially also with the amount of Elseworld stories and how successful they are coming out of Marvel and DC, I feel like we're really in sort of a new era of comics.
Sure,
Which
and
is
I
cool.
think just in the case of like comics as like an industry, if someone's doing well, everybody's doing well. Because if
Mhm.
you're buying comics in general, you're gonna buy from a lot of different places. So comics are never like they're competitive, but the whole like DC Marvel thing war is like definitely feels more like a movie TV thing to me and a lot of people that aren't really that into the comics themselves. Because you like comics, you like comics. Like I like the DC characters more, but I don't have like an allegiance to DC. Like I read
Mhm.
Marvel comics often. Like we've both been reading both and that and indie comics. So I think if somebody wins, everybody wins in comics. So if you indie titles are doing well, that's awesome news, and I hope they succeed because that means we'll get better, more interesting stories from the main distributors.
And at the end of the day, what we love are great stories.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good stories are good stories. I don't care where they're from. I just personally think the good stories come from DC. My favorite good stories, but they're
And
good stories all
you know
around.
what I think? I think good stories come from Demon Slayer.
Exactly. But with that, we will wrap up this 7th episode of the
Oh
New
wait,
Adventures
really,
of.
really
Oh,
fast
oh,
before don't forget Daredevil.
oh my goodness. Yes, we read Daredevil.
Yeah, new Daredevil issue.
I skipped over
Really, really
Daredevil.
fast. No, it's chill.
Yes.
It's chill. That was a good stopping point. But let's just do a quick little. Let's just give Chip Starsky a little bit of airtime really
Yes,
fast.
yes. Give him
Um,
some love.
yeah. What do you think of that issue, Spencer? You're always asking me the question. I'll turn it over to you this time.
I like the Iron Man stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what was going on with Fisk because we just haven't been reading it too much, and this is the second. This is like 20 something, right? In
Yeah.
the run.
Mhm.
We read the annual and then tried to kind of jump into the run itself, but I mean, they got Iron Man done well. He seemed like Tony. I liked their relationship.
Yeah.
I like that Matt was like under trial. I thought it was really kind of insane that they were like had like a law now in the universe where you can be like tried under your superhero identity.
Mhm.
And I'm like, if they committed a crime, who gives a fuck about their superhero identity?
Yeah.
That was kind of a crazy thing. Where I was like,
No, it is, and
whatever.
I what I also liked about it though is that like there were the characters there who were going like, why is this a law? This is so
Yeah,
stupid, you
yeah.
know?
And I
And
was like,
like
this is such a comics thing to
I
do.
was kind of on their side. I was like, yeah, that is pretty fucking dumb. But at
Yeah,
the same time, like I guess in that universe, it's the same logic that they use for kind of like war heroes and patriots in America, right? Where it's like like, oh, they're a hero, should they be tried the exact same way and stuff, right?
Sure.
So I could see America doing that. So that's why it works, but also like, yeah. One thing I really like that issue though, just to talk about the Tony Stark thing. That's a great example to me of why I like a lot of modern comics these days. Because it's addressing like real issues that are sort of like at the forefront these days. Because there's the whole debate between Tony and Matt when they're in Tony's apartment, and Matt's like, "Listen, I want you to spend all of this money and buy this building, and then give free rent to all of these people, right?" And Tony is like, "So you want me to lose all that money? You're asking me to do that?" And he goes, "Yeah, Tony, because it's the right thing, you know." And I like that because I agreed with Matt, in the situation. I didn't know the full situation, but from the way it was described and stuff, and like with Fisk as mayor and he's trying to fuck over these people, and Matt's like, "Listen, Tony, you have so much money and you spend all this money on your suit, and how many millions and billions of dollars have you put into your suit? You can't spare a little bit for this housing thing, right?" And he's like, "Oh, I think he even says like I'm more of a Earth level, or like Red Danger, Earth Crisis level superhero, whereas you're more street level, right?" And Matt's kind of like, "Well, the street level, you should get more street level. Street level is the real problems, like you can't really be a hero if you're not a hero at the street level too."
For sure.
I thought that was cool. That was a really cool scene, cool ideology. And also, just the way putting Matt Murdock on trial, as much as the actual logic and laws of the universe are like ridiculous, they make it make sense, and at the same time, it's cool. It's cool to see Matt up for trial and as like still committed to the justice system because it's in true with his character. One other thing, also just like, I think it's so interesting reading a Daredevil story set in 2020 because he's a very religious character. He has that big like Catholic following to him, which like I'm not particularly religious. I'm agnostic. Spencer, you're kind of in the same boat, basically, right? It's cool though. I still respect religion, and I still think there's a place for it in our modern world. And I think that a character like Daredevil kind of shows that you can still like have that faith and not be a total asshole and still apply it to good uses, and it has a good representation of religion, which I like that too.
Sure.
Shout out.
Matt Murdock is an upstanding citizen. I would agree with you. Anyways, with that, we are going to wrap up the show. We are out of time and naturally out of topics. So thank you so much for listening to the New Adventures of K-Man and Spence. If you like the show, you can check us out at anchor.fm/the New Adventures of K-Man and Spence. You can also tell a friend about our show and help us grow our small community of comic fanatics. Again, thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. We promise we're not skipping another week. We'll see you next week. Writing and producing for this episode of The New Adventures of K-Man and Spence was done by myself, Spencer Bennett, and my co-host, Kieran Collins. Editing was done by Spencer Bennett. Our logo was created by Spencer Bennett. Our music was composed by Brandon LaBelle. This show is a proud participant of the Deconstructed Podcast Network, complete with the Disney Deconstructed Podcast, unofficial experts with Preston Moore, Maybe You Should Care, political discussion, which is actually coming back here in the next week, and of course this show, The New Adventures of K-Man and Spence. Link is in the description for that. Again, thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.